Councillor Spencer based on this time.
I'm sure that it's working. It's been tested today.
Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to this council meeting. A special welcome to all of the councillors in attendance and to those joining us in the public gallery. Before we begin, on behalf of our present, I acknowledge that we are meeting here this evening on Cammeraygal land. I pay my respects to the traditional owners, the Cammeraygal people of the Eora Nation, and we respect to elders past, present and emerging with gratitude for their careful and ongoing custodianship of these lands, waters and skies. Councillor Spenceley has sought to attend tonight's council meeting remotely. Is there a procedural motion? Councillor Berge, moved by Councillor Berge, seconded by Councillor Keane. All those in favour? And that is carried. Welcome, Councillor Spenceley. Are there any disclosures of interest for items on the agenda? Councillor Keane.
I do, Madam Mayor. 10.6, non-pecuniary, not significant.
Any reason?
My son plays for North Rugby.
Thank you. Turn off your microphone. This meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on Council's website. Those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. By attending the meeting, you are giving consent to your image and voice being webcast. With a reminder that under the Code of Meeting Practice, councillors, council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during meetings of council. Councillors who need to use their phone to text, talk or engage in social media must leave the chamber to do so. And that brings us to confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there a mover for the minutes? Councillor Santa. Is there a seconder? Councillor Antonini. Is there any discussion? I'll put the minutes. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. There's been two people who've registered to speak on 3 items. Councillor Berge.
Madam Mayor, I'll move a procedural motion that we bring forward items 10.3, gender equity and accessibility, audit of council sporting facilities, response to council resolution, 10.5, North Sydney Oval Rugby Festival, and 10.6, North Sydney Oval, North Sydney Bears in Northern Suburbs Rugby VHAs. I bring them forward and open the public forum before the debate.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Santa.
I'll put the procedural motion. All those in favour? And that is carried, which brings us to the first of those brought forward items. Item 10.3, gender equity and accessibility audit of council sporting facilities. There's one registered speaker, Mr. David McDonald. If you would please come forward. If you could turn your
reason.
Good evening, councillors, members of the gallery and to all my fans out there in YouTube land. The reason I wanted to come and speak to you about this report you received, and this is perhaps quite unusual, is that you requested urgently that this report be gone into on the November the 11th, 2024. 5 months has subsequently passed, and that cannot be a good thing, especially when you consider the actual content of that report, which I say is basically a cut and paste of what everybody knows goes on and exists within council today. There was nothing fundamental in that report. And you may say, why is he coming to say that to us? Well, first of all, in line 2 of what you're being asked to make a decision on is that a further review be made regarding this issue, a further review. And then subsequent to that review, there then be another report brought forward to you here. Now, I find that incredibly inefficient and a weakness within the council executive, and I think that needs addressing as a person who's a resident, pay rates, so on and so forth. Item 4, that subject to available funding, and I want to come back to that in a moment, that council engage an inclusion consultant as part of the review process of the sporting facilities, bearing in mind this is about the development and being inclusive to women, which I think is very important. But I don't stop there, because I want to come back to when I came to this chamber on the 24th of February, and I put forward to you a number of reasons why you shouldn't have taken the option of supporting the proposal that was then before you regarding the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. Now, I've got my speaking notes here. I addressed fundamentally everything regarding that. But what you then received from a councillor here was a change of the narrative, which isn't recorded in the minutes, they never are, but it wasn't part of the motion that was put forward to you that you eventually voted for. The narrative was changed to make it something fundamentally about the rights of women and inclusion and changes to the Oval in regards to facilities. And that was not what you ended up voting for, but it was the narrative that was put forward here to you. And what I found from that, which I found was most appalling, was earlier on I had said about impugning people when they come up here and speaking. And I went down and sat there and I had to accept being told or inferred, and as all of you were, that you would be voting against the rights of women. And why I resent that, I'll just finish in a moment, why I resent that, I have here in my hand a document that was from my mother, and it's from the Women's Cooperative Guild, and I've always been an advocate for women's rights, and I resent the fact that you were misled and interfere for voting against something that was absolutely a fallacy.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Are there any questions of the speaker? Thank you for your participation. That brings us to the item itself. Is it Councillor Berrigan?
Mayor, I've emailed in a motion, which is the recommendation just with the number 5. Which I'll read out. The council write to the Minister for Sport and the Minister for Women, urging the state government to develop, adopt and implement female-friendly sport infrastructure guidelines for New South Wales, similar to those already adopted in Victoria and referenced in the report, to provide information and advice on how to deliver more gender equitable environments across the state to support the New South Wales government's Play Her Way strategy 2024-2028, which seeks to empower women and girls to have full access and opportunity and choice in sport.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Walsh. Councillor Berrigan, do you wish to speak?
I will briefly speak to it. Thank you to the council staff for the report. I know council staff have been under tremendous pressure with many other issues at the moment, so thank you for coming back to us. What I was concerned about was that every time we looked to reference about sporting infrastructure, we were referencing Victoria's female-friendly sport infrastructure guidelines, and New South Wales don't have any. The Tasmanian government are currently out consulting on women and girls and how to implement better infrastructure for women and girls. And we have this, a really fantastic report that was released by the Minister for Sport last year about Play Her Way, but it's very high level. It talks about the Matildas, it talks about the Netball World Cup, it talks about the high level. It doesn't talk about how we then implement the strategy at the local level to increase female participation at the local level. And what we know is that female participation at the local level really is about females feeling valued, females being provided with the same resources that are provided to the males at the moment. That can be change rooms, that can be the size of the field, that can be the general look and feel of the environments, which women have had to adapt to the male version, but now women are forging their own path. And so it would be really fantastic if the New South Wales government could then develop guidelines that underpin it, then go to local councils, maybe linked to funding, and to how local councils can best support the next generation of Matildas and the next generation of Diamonds from here. So that's the motion that I ask you to support.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Berge. That I really like your number 5 addition. I think that's terrific. And listen, there has been a significant and welcome increase in the participation of women and girls in sport and active recreation in recent years. Ensuring equitable access to sporting facilities is essential if we're to sustain this momentum across all age groups and abilities. I remember watching my daughter attend football training on the periphery of the field while the men trained in the center where the lighting was better and the grass was greener. That experience stayed with me. It's why I especially welcome this report and the focus it brings to equity in our public spaces. I support the recommendation.
Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also support the recommendation. Gender equity facilities are imperative in our local government area with so many of women's sport coming into this area. Recently, I was fortunate enough to be with our Ringa Liberal candidate, Jamie Rogers, who's pledged money for Forsyth Park change rooms to have their improvement. So this is another good initiative that's in place.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Do we have any speakers? And do you wish to, there's no reply and everyone is in support. I'll put the item, all those in favour, and that is carried unanimously. That brings us to the next brought forward item, item 10.5, North Sydney Oval Rugby Festival. There is one registered speaker, David McDonald, if you would please come forward.
Thank you, David McDonald. I come here to address you on the basis that I have some concerns about this proposal in front of you. The first concern is, it's been stated in the report that you have in front of you, there's no need for community consultation. Well, I think there is, and I'm going to go through some of the reasons why. I ask, and some of the people that I know outside of this chamber, where is the business case? Re the duration of the costs and the benefits across to the whole of the community of the LGA. Where is that business case? Fan site locations. In 2013, it was about 1/3 to 1/2 of the area that's now currently being allocated or suggested to be allocated in size. Our park has been hit by the Western Harbour Tunnel construction. The fan site or the fan sites take up a great amount of the park space for a period of 10, maybe 12 days. And essentially a part of the park that is used by our community in the lower part of the park next to Miller Street. I propose, and I would ask you to consider, that there should be, all 3 zones should be combined into one, and that be in the Ridge Street area, because that is the least area where people ever congregate, so it'd be less impactful on our community. Or 2, relocate zones 1 and 3 between the greens and the oval, which is more easily secured. 4, why 4 days of fan site? What is the justification? Why are the areas still going to be closed between 10 and 12 days? Because that's how I read it in the report. Before members of this chamber before, members of this chamber have objected to the commercialisation of our public space. So on that basis, I would like you to consider that local residents should have free access to the fan sites. If not, what is the benefit to residents and ratepayers? What is the business case for this event as proposed to you today? And I just want to cover this, is the management of the Oval have engaged with key stakeholders. I've been here before and saying, well, who are these people? They're enthusiastic to be involved. Who? Importantly, North Shore Police, it says in your report there, reviewed the high-level event plans and has indicated, not confirmed, satisfaction with the proposed arrangements contingent on continued communication and planning.
That's your 3 minutes, if you could finish your thought.
I ask you to reject this report or make the appropriate modifications to it and have a discussion with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Berrigan,
I'll move the recommendation, Mayor.
is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Santa. Do you wish to speak to it?
I will briefly. Thank you for the report. This is really exciting. To be hosting, as everybody knows, we have a Lions test coming for those of you who don't know the Lions, it's one every 4 years to Australia. They one every 12 years to Australia. They tour every 4 years, but it only comes to Australia every 12 years. It goes to New Zealand and then to South Africa on other years. They bring an enormous amount of tourists. And I've already heard that many places are already booked out. Tourism facilities from Hunter Valley to Blue Mountains to the South Coast are booked out. And it's exciting that that North Sydney will be one of the live sites and then covered by Stan Sport as well. It's a great opportunity to showcase the Oval. Great to have an event and fits very comfortably within the many strategies that have been referenced in the report. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to support rugby and sport in our LGA.
Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I agree with Councillor Berrigan. This festival represents a wonderful opportunity for our local businesses, residents, and the broader community. It will bring vibrancy to our local area, support economic activity, and place North Sydney on the national sporting map. I look forward to seeing our community come together for what promises to be a celebration of sport and community spirit. I support the recommendation.
Councillor King.
Indeed, it is an exciting time to have a rugby festival in North Sydney, but I'd like to make mention that we could actually look at working with some of our local food and beverage businesses as a priority. We have a lot of food and beverage businesses here in North Sydney who I'm sure would like to be involved in the fan site or the food and beverage area. And to Mr. McDonald's point, I actually think there's some merit in what you were saying, in the sense that, is there any benefit to our North Sydney residents in this fan site? Of course, they will benefit and they'll pay, but is there any way as a council we could look at a reduced discount rate for a ratepayer, something that our North Sydney residents could actually benefit from as a bit of a gesture from the council?
Thank you.
Was that a question? Or...
Yes, if you don't mind.
So the fan zone for the first day is free entry, and then for the games, during the games it's closed, and it's just a ticketed event for the games to make up for the overflow of the Oval. And then for the Lions live site, it's paid entry, but for the other it's free for the other nights.
Okay, is there?
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Parsons, is there any way through the ticketing process, do we have any influence over the ticketing process for North Sydney residents? Like a discount or something that the North Sydney residents could benefit from, please?
So the tickets for the event are actually sold as part of the match day. So that's with the hirers of the Oval, if you like.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Do you wish to exercise a right of reply? put the item? All those in favour? All those against? That is carried. That brings us to the final item brought forward, North Sydney Oval, North Sydney Bears and Northern Suburbs Rugby venue home agreements. There are two registered speakers. The first is Gareth Holmes, the CEO of North Sydney Bears. If you would please come forward.
Give your name.
Gareth Holmes, CEO of the North Sydney Bears. Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this item. Firstly, I wanted to acknowledge the work of Duncan Rennie and Gary Parsons in pulling together this venue hire agreement. For many years, this document hasn't been worth the paper it's been written on, so to see the thoroughness of this document and this agreement is a great step forward. To provide you with some background, the North Sydney Bears this year celebrate 115 years as a tenant of North Sydney Oval. We have been, and it can be argued, probably your most high-profile sporting organisation in the ground's history, and it generated more than, over the last century, have generated more than any other sporting code in terms of attendance and ground attendance for our match venues. In the last two seasons, over 50,000 people have attended North Sydney Bears games. We're involved in the community, well beyond rugby league. In 1955, the Bears founded the North Sydney Leagues Club, and they now occupy two sites locally, one at Camaray and the greens behind North Sydney Oval. It's also one of the area's biggest, highest hospitality employers and plays a key role in local sporting community. The Bears also have a community partner in Mary's House who play a vital role within the area. The North Sydney Bears have been an integral part of North Sydney Council community since our foundation in 1908, providing opportunities for young Australians both locally and beyond. Despite leaving the NRL in 1999, we've continued to act as a pathway for young men and young women in rugby league. Our junior rep sides, containing many locals, continue to compete successfully against big NRL clubs. North Sydney have also been a trailblazer in women's rugby league, with multiple minor premierships in recent years, and continue to provide a pathway for young women to play the game at an elite level and compete on the competitive stage. Our most recent research demonstrates the North Sydney Bears, despite being out of the elite competition for 25 years, still have over 250,000 rugby league fans. The Bears have the highest profile of any sporting organisation in the North Sydney Council area. In recent years, the North Sydney Bears has done its bit to promote the district. As you review the VHA that's been presented to you, I wanted to raise a couple of items. The proposal before you states that the North Sydney Bears can host a minimum of 9 games per season. Our season requires us to host 12. This sees a reduction of 25% of our games throughout the year, which is disappointing from one of the council's most long-term hirers. The ongoing viability of this grassroots club based in North Sydney and provides certainty of us playing at a venue. We don't have another option like that within the area. Our hire period extends from April to September. The ability to host 12 days across that 5-month period does not seem like an unreasonable request.
It's your 3 minutes, but if you finish your
thoughts.
Okay. The other item I'd like to bring your attention is the significant increase in costs and hire fees. When we look back 2 seasons to 2023, the increase from the 2023 to the 2024 season saw fees increase to the value of about 120%. And as we look to this further VHA, when we look back to 2023, it's close to a 200% increase in venue hire costs. Whilst I understand that costs do increase and we manage CPI, this is a significant increase for a community hirer. I just asked Council to consider both of those items, and we look forward to a favourable outcome and bringing some more great footy to rugby league to North Sydney Oval.
Thank you. You got a question?
Yes, I do.
Councillor King.
Just a quick question. If you're 3 fixtures short, what are your options? So you need 12. There's a minimum of 9. We're not saying that there won't be 12. It's just what are your options as a club?
Within the council area, no, there are no options that are of that level and that standard for us. We faced that situation this season, and we took a game to the Central Coast on the weekend because of that very reason. We were forced out of not being able to play at the Oval due to other commitments, but we were forced away, so we took a game to the Central Coast.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
participation.
We have another speaker, that's Mr. Davey McDonald, if you would please come forward.
Councillors. Before I speak, I want you to know that I really like the game of rugby league. We shared that outside. I was a Balmain supporter. My father played twice for Scotland, didn't make the Lions. I love rugby union. Just want to make that clear. A question I had several of them and they were answered. I better just go down my list here. I wanted to know, I wrote one down here, which is, it says in the report, this deal with the Bears will enable council to better manage the asset to the benefit of the community. I'd like to know how that actually looks. It's there in your report you're looking at. I did share this one and I came here to say, well, instead of looking at people going out at half time, but we agree that that's a good idea, but they do mini rugby league as well. So I think that's good. I wanted to ask that question and say, let's make sure that the kids get involved. They do that. Great. I had a question of what were the fees that were largely in alignment with council. I think we understand now that they've been put up, so I won't go down that path. But I do have this question, and this is one which my new friend out there won't probably appreciate, is why is it that the notice period is 3 months? At any time, it appears the way it reads in the report, prior to them joining the National Rugby League, just 3 months. And you heard when the season comes up, it could be that that notice period is made when a season has been completed. I stand to be corrected on that, by the way, but that's how I read it, and I think that that might be an error. I don't want to make things difficult for North Sydney Bears. Did council add a value add costing of the value of 238 Miller Street? Great that we let them have it, but I think it should be recognised of what that actually constitutes as a value in the entire thing. And I also would like to say that I really do like the Bears. I've got a Steve Bear at home. Okay, see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, Councillor Berrigan?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the recommendation.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Santa? Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it?
I will speak briefly. I'd like to thank you for coming up to speak. We appreciate that it is difficult. However, we probably have about 50% more people that would like to hire our grounds than we have available grounds. And as we have just discussed, we now have many more sports and women's sports to offer services to, in terms of North Sydney Oval, Bon Andrews Oval. And so the agreement reflects that, in that the Oval isn't going to be sitting vacant on any Saturday that you won't be playing at it. It will be used by other games. And winter sport is particularly difficult because there's not a lot of time for the ground to recover from a weekend of sport, especially in winter when the grass doesn't grow as strong. So thank you for coming up to speak. Thank you to the council too for the report. Like the speaker, I too have never seen such a fantastic report and a heads of agreement being put out to people to use the Oval. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a mark of this council, which is that we are having engaged with our community and making sure that everybody is informed and understands both council's position, and we understand the rugby league's position. So I move the recommendation.
Are there any, councillor Centre?
Yeah, I too support the motion, and I hope that a similar VHA can be reached with the LFL and an Australian Rules Football supporter. The Sydney Swan, particularly given that the AFLW season starts in August. And I'd love to see a few more games played by the AFLW at the end as well.
Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I can ask a question to the CEO, just around the game days, is there any way we can look to increase this to the 12 for the Bears? Because I think as 115 years and one of our primary hirers of the North Sydney Oval, honouring their history and actually a community club.
You have to put a question without argument.
Okay.
Directly.
Okay, I was just justifying the question.
You don't need to.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the 9 games was, it's a minimum. It was negotiated for quite some months between the Bears. So, and we do have other commitments we're trying to fit on the Oval as well. As the council's aware, the Oval is well utilised, extensively utilised by other groups. The fees and charges are in alignment with council's fees and charges. And we recognise the Bears as a community club, and that's what they are charged. And then we have other hires that we're obviously charging more for the use of the Oval to try and, I guess, offset that and support that and continue having the Bears at the Oval. So, that, as I say, the 9 games, it's a 9 games minimum, and that was negotiated over many months. So, yeah, it's difficult for me to take that answer that question now without going back through renegotiations.
Councillor Spenceley.
Thank you. To you, Madam Mayor, just a question. What is the likelihood that they may be able to get the 3 extra games? Is it pretty much already the schedule's booked and it's very unlikely? Or is it on the basis that might be a best effort that they get one of the, or 1, 2 or 3 of the additional games?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So as we say, it's a minimum. So if we can get 12 games on there, we'll get 12 games on there.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on the item? Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in terms of the food and beverage, again, a question through you, Madam Mayor. You've put that North Sydney Council will negotiate the food and beverage agreements. I just want to put on the record if we can potentially work with local food and beverage. Again, any North Sydney businesses would be greatly appreciated.
Take that not as a question, as a comment. Does anyone else wish to speak to the item? I'm going to put the item. All those in favour? Thank you. And those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. That takes us back to the rest of the agenda. The first item, 10.1, Sydney VCP Streamlining Project. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Beregi, seconded by Councillor Holding. Councillor Beregi, do you wish to speak to the item?
I have to reserve my right of reply, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The changes to the DCP are quite extensive, and they do simplify the DCP. I have, I guess, a couple of questions. Do we have an estimate of how much time will be saved in determining DAs with these changes? And the second question is, when do you expect to be able to digitize the document so it's ready for AI implementation? Do we have a timeline for this?
Mr. Acuzzi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of points, a couple of parts of that question. In terms of how much time that will save, I can't answer that question. The idea is that the simplification of the DCP will make not only the assessment process easier for council staff, but also the access by the users of the DCP, both consultants and applicants, but also folk that might have something to say about an application next door to them, make it more accessible to them. So to put an absolute time frame on that, I don't want this to be replayed to me in 6 months' time and be told that I got it wrong. So, but I should say that this is stage one of a much more comprehensive process. This was the subject of a grant with very restrictive and constrained timeframes of about 9 months, and a project of this extent to be realised fully, in my opinion, will take in the order of 2 years. So we should see this as a stage one to create the framework for stage two, then to fall neatly in behind and do a much more comprehensive and more consultative piece of work that will take a significant amount of time. In terms of the second question, we're in terms of digitising, we're working with a provider at the moment, have been for a little while, to streamline our internal computer systems and processes to make our systems much more meaningful and efficient in terms of delivering faster development assessment processes. As part of that, we will not only seek to digitise the DCP, but also the LEP. That is looking like the first stage. Again, that's a stage process. The first stage of that will be towards the end of this year, probably November, December. That will be the first stage where our internal assessment processes are incorporated into our existing systems. The second stages of that will be digitising the DCP and LEP, a pretty big process as well. That's likely to take in the order of 3 to 6 months after that.
Thank you. Any others, questions or speakers? Councillor Keane, do you wish to a question?
Yes, please. Thank you. Just on that, just as a fact, I'm just trying to determine, we all use AI every day, so we're trying to interpret how the DCP will look with the AI integration. Is there any visibility of what it looks like in terms of going forward? Have you got anything that you could share with us?
No, I don't, through you, Madam Mayor. The idea is to relate planning provisions, development controls to parcels of land and development types. Exactly, there's been a lot of discussion, some of which I fess up that I don't understand. It's a lot of IT discussion that goes on behind the scenes. But from a user's perspective, it should be, in the future, it should be as simple as identifying a parcel of land, identifying what you want to do with it, and the system then pulling out the relevant controls for you.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, the DCP is very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And it will make that process exceedingly difficult. Now, this first stage is not going to get us there, but it provides and sets up the framework and moving in that direction.
I've got a further question, if that's okay. So there was a trial with 16 councils on the AI solutions. And what was the process for that? Did the state government choose the councils? I know we've been put on notice for our DA processing times. I was just wondering why we weren't, and I don't have the backstory, I was just notified that we had the 16 councils, and I was just wondering what the process was.
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure what the process was, to be honest. Our systems are simply not mature enough to be part of a trial right now. And I think we just have to be very honest about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Do you wish to speak or put the item? All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. That brings us to 10.2, the review of council policies. Is there a mover of the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Beregi, seconded by Councillor Santa. Is there any discussion? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of, a few questions really on this. So item number 4.3 in the policy, the question is, how is acceptable condition defined? So I mean, it's fine to say acceptable.
Okay, you've asked the question directly, succinctly. I think that's a question to.
Yep. So through you, Madam Mayor. So acceptable conditions. So the standards, Institute of Public Works and Engineers has standards for conditions, and as does the IPNR framework. So conditions 1 to 5 Condition 5 is replacement. It's no longer used and 1 is brand new. Acceptable condition is about condition 3.
Thank you. And item number 4.4 says that council would develop agreed levels of service for all infrastructure in consultation with the community. Based on that, given that council has already classified assets and includes category 5 and 4 in the financials, is this policy then suggesting that the reclassification of assets will go out for public consultation after the fact?
Madam Mayor, just to clarify, the integrated planning and reporting framework guidelines recommend that where agreed levels of service have not been made with the community, then the default is level 2, which is good. What we're talking about here is actually developing a program, and it's not a once-off program. It'll be a program of going out and consulting with the community in relation to what level of service, for example, for roads, the community thinks is satisfactory for their purposes. It would be based on asset class. In some cases, particularly in those council areas where there is population decline as opposed to population growth, that might mean that some community groups might decide that a particular asset will be used until it is no longer able to be used and then retired. That's not going to be the case in a council like North Sydney. And so the community will have to determine what level of service they would require. We would then have to layer that with a level of risk analysis to see whether that asset could operate at an acceptable risk, and then set the service standard. Did you have anything to add to that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
Yes, I have a few. Okay. Now, the policy references a delivery plan that was for 2022 to 2026. We are in 2025, so I'm assuming the council is using the delivery plan that is in existence, as we don't have a new one. This plan that I clicked the link on is marked as draft, given it's the delivery plan for 22 to 26. Why is it still a draft?
That's one question, so we'll
That's
allow
one
someone to
question.
answer it. Without having clicked through the link personally, I'd have to look at the website and determine whether that link needs correcting. Another question, Councillor Carr.
The other question I have is outcome 1.4 in the delivery plan says that we're converting 1 Henry Lawson Avenue to parkland. I think there are suggestions that a new toilet block will be erected on the site. So
Sorry, this I have to rule it out of order. That's not about this item on the agenda. We're talking about a specific item in the delivery plan that has yet to go in public exhibition. So it's not in
the delivery plan is 22 to 26.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so there are currently suggestions that a new toilet block will be erected on the site. So it's not strictly being returned to parkland. What are the plans going forward?
Well, I'd have to correct you on that. A toilet block in parkland is part of under every plan management for our parks. Toilet blocks are part of parklands. Your suggestion in the question is incorrect. What I would ask you to do is you are required to ask direct, succinctly, and without argument your questions. So if you could make them direct to the item on the agenda.
has the community been consulted on what happens to 1 Henry Lawson Avenue site?
Again, I will direct that be taken on notice. It's not directly related to this asset management policy. That's on a specific project under the current delivery plan.
But it is referenced in the policy.
But it doesn't make it directly relevant to the policy. So if you have another question.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. You turn off your microphone, please. Is there any further discussion? Put the item, all those in favour and those against. Ian, Carr and Spencer against. That is carried. And that brings us to item 10.4, the draft North Sydney Bike Action Plan public exhibition, moved by Councillor Welsh. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Santa. Is there a wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, I've been riding an e-bike for a few years now, and it's been terrific for short trips around the neighborhood. I've got a basket on the front for my shopping, and it's a simple, convenient way to get around. The more people who feel comfortable riding bikes, the less traffic we'll have, and the fewer parking issues we'll face. I'm also speaking to more residents who are renting e-bikes and using them for that last leg of the commute, from the train station to the home. These are small, smart shifts that make a big difference. Right now, just 1.4% of trips on our LGA are made by bike. The implementation of the actions in this bike plan is expected to increase that fourfold to 6%. Still a woefully low number. Transport is the fastest growing source of emissions and is expected to become the largest single source by 2030. Here in North Sydney, transport already accounts for 18.5% of residents' emissions, and this share will only grow as the electricity network becomes cleaner and more renewable powered. A comparison of census data between 2016 and 2021 shows that despite our policy goals to reduce car use, the percentage of people commuting by car rose from 40% to 58%. While COVID-19 undoubtedly played a role in this shift, it's clear that more needs to be done to reverse this trend. Council staff have developed a fantastic bike action plan. The community now has the opportunity to review the draft and have their say. I encourage everyone to take a look, share your feedback, and get involved, because a more bike-friendly future is one we will all benefit from. I support the recommendation.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. I too support the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Welsh. I just had a question for staff. In relation to the community engagement strategy, will we be having pop-ups so to that are visible to the community who might not otherwise see that it's out on exhibition?
Yes, certainly that's part of the general engagement we do for these types of things. So yeah.
Great question.
Councillor Carr.
I have a couple of questions on this. I note the new bike path has, well, there is a big plan for the new bike path.
Could you ask direct? No,
Yes.
I'm calling you to order. You really, and this is for all councillors. The Code of Meeting Practice under clause 9.18 requires that questions be direct, succinct, respectfully put, and without argument. So please don't put the context, just give us the questions.
Okay, 2 sections of the bike path are located in West Street in Crow's Nest and High Street to Benboy Road. As far as I'm aware, both of those sections of the bike path have gone to public consultation some time ago. The question is, why are these sections still up here on the overall bike map, given the community has rejected them?
That's
And
a
is
question.
council
That's one question. Thank you.
One question.
So
I'll have to summarise that so it's a bit more direct. Why are the 2 bike paths that are referenced there, remain in the draft bike plan.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the bike plan that's before you, that was consulted with the councillors and presented to the councillors in the briefing. It talks about a network, so it's just indicating the network of bike paths that we're proposing to or trying to achieve across the LGA. They're not necessarily ones they'll have to be consulted on before they're constructed, but it's just to show you indicatively how the network might work and how the networks are proposed to go together.
Okay, next question, councillor Carr.
The second question I have is regarding the membership of the Sustainable Transport Reference Group.
Well, I'm going to rule you out of order. That's irrelevant to the draft bike plan. So if you have questions about that, saying it's on hiatus, you can ask those questions outside of the meeting. Do you have another question?
That's all, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a note and for the residents of North Sydney that this is about endorsing public exhibition of the draft North Sydney Bike Action Plan. And I too encourage our North Sydney residents to have their say during this period, whether it's pop-ups or online or whatever mechanism.
Thank you. Councillor Santa.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I've had quite a bit of feedback from members of the community on the bike paths that have been installed so far. To the extent that they've criticised these bike paths, they've said, well, just bits of bike path placed all over the place. Nobody uses them, and therefore they're a waste of money. My answer to them, and one that I'm welcome to see in this report, is it's shown in the report, is that these are intended to be connected into one integrated, interconnected arterial cycleway network for North Sydney, and that they should have patience and accept that what we're trying to achieve out of all this is an integrated arterial network for the whole of North Sydney. And I welcome this this proposal and vote for it.
Speakers. You wish to speak? Those against? And it is carried. That brings us, councillors, to the close of the meeting. Thank you to everyone who participated. And there will be, the next meeting is on the 28th of April. That's the meeting is closed.